Long ago, the sun vanished from the sky, the winds stopped blowing, rivers froze midstream. The world fell into a cold, breathless stillness. Crops wilted in the fields. Darkness clung to the mountains. The people feared they had angered the heavens. But the gods knew the truth. Amaterasu had disappeared. Amaterasu was the sun goddess, the light that warmed the world. She rose each morning in golden brilliance, scattering shadows and blessing the land. Birds sang to her. Flowers turned their faces in devotion. She was not just a goddess. She was life, radiance, harmony. But even light can falter when wounded. She had a brother, Susanoo, god of storms and seas. He crashed through the heavens like a thunderclap, wild and unrestrained. His voice roared louder than any wave. His pride burned hotter than lightning. Jealous of Amaterasu's reverence, he grew bitter. He could not live in her light without trying to shatter it. Susanoo demanded a contest of creation. He and Amaterasu would each form divine children from sacred artifacts. She crafted 5 noble sons from his sword. He shaped 3 daughters from her treasured necklace. The gods watched and declared Amaterasu's creations purer. Susanoo's pride cracked, and pride, once wounded, can turn cruel. He lashed out in fury. He tore down the rice fields Amaterasu had blessed. He defiled her sacred shrines with filth. He shattered the walls of her heavenly palace. And then, the worst of all, he slaughtered her sacred pony and hurled it into her weaving hall. Amaterasu collapsed. The cloth she wove unraveled in her hands. Tears welled in her eyes, not from rage, but heartbreak. She rose without a word, turned from the heavens, and walked into a cave deep within the mountains. With her own divine strength, she sealed the entrance with a massive boulder. When she disappeared, the world changed. The sun stopped rising. Dawn never came. The land turned cold. Creatures hid. The gods stared at the sky and saw only emptiness. The people lit fires, but none gave warmth. Without Amaterasu, even the divine felt powerless. The gods gathered near the cave. They called to her, cried out in sorrow. They offered gifts, sang hymns, pleaded through tears. But the cave remained still. The boulder unmoved. Not a flicker of golden light came through the cracks. The sun was gone, and nothing could bring her back. Desperation turned to debate. Punish Susanoo? Banish him? What would that solve without the sun? The gods had no answers. Then, amid the grief, one voice broke the silence, a laugh. A small goddess stepped forward, grinning. Her name was Ame-no-Uzume, and she had a different idea. Uzume said nothing. She overturned a sake barrel and stepped onto it. The gods watched in confusion as she began to dance. Her robes slipped, her hair flew. She stomped her feet, sang nonsense songs, and swayed like a storm. The gods blinked, then laughed. The clearing filled with joy for the first time in days. Uzume danced wildly, shameless and strange. The more absurd she became, the louder the gods laughed. Their bellies shook, their eyes streamed with tears of mirth. Even the trees rustled as if giggling. This wasn't worship. It was something older, a joy so loud it couldn't be ignored. Inside the cave, Amaterasu stirred. For days she had known only silence. Now, laughter echoed beyond the stone. She pressed her ear to the cold wall. What could possibly be funny in a world without her? Her curiosity burned. She leaned closer and whispered, "What are you laughing at?" From outside, Uzume called back, "We found a goddess brighter than you!" Gasps and roars of laughter followed. Amaterasu blinked. Brighter than her? She pulled the boulder just enough to see outside, and her light spilled out like a spark. The trap had been set. Before her stood a shining mirror held high by the gods. In it, she saw herself, not broken, not hidden, but radiant, divine, strong. She stared at her own light, as if seeing it for the first time. And in that moment, she forgot her sorrow. She reached toward the reflection. That was all they needed. Tajikarau, the god of strength, leapt forward. With a single cry, he pulled the stone free from the cave. Golden light erupted from the entrance, blinding and brilliant. Amaterasu stood blinking, caught between fear and wonder. The world breathed again. The sun returned. Light spilled across the land. Mountains turned gold. Rivers sparkled. Flowers unfurled. Birdsong returned like a forgotten memory. The gods cheered and embraced one another. Laughter became music. The long night was over because one goddess chose to open her eyes. Amaterasu smiled gently. She stepped from the cave, but her gaze lingered behind her. She had seen what silence could become. Her light was not as carefree now, but it was still light. She had chosen to return. That mattered more than anything. Susanoo was brought before the gods. He bowed his head, but even he knew he had gone too far. They stripped him of his place in heaven. He was cast down to the mortal world. There, his storms would rage, but never reach the sky again. Amaterasu rose once more into the heavens. She resumed her path across the sky, but now every dawn felt fragile, every sunrise a choice. The gods watched with reverence, not because she was invincible, but because she had come back from the dark. The mirror that had shown her true self was enshrined. It became one of Japan's 3 sacred treasures. Not a weapon, not a throne, a reflection. Because sometimes we must see ourselves clearly before we can step back into the light. The cave was sealed, but not forgotten. It remains sacred ground, a place of silence and memory. A reminder that even gods can break, even gods can hide. But sometimes, what brings them back isn't power, but play. Uzume was honored among the gods, not for strength, not for status, but for joy. Her dance, wild and ridiculous, had done what prayer and ceremony could not. She reminded the divine what it meant to laugh, and in doing so, saved the world. Today, when the sun rises, it is not just the turn of the earth, it is a choice made by Amaterasu to step out of the cave, to bless the world again, to give light, knowing what it means to lose it. And in those early hours, when the sky is pale and the birds have not yet stirred, the world holds its breath. Will she rise again? Will the light return? Even now, we ask, without knowing we ask. Because even in our own darkness, when all seems lost, one laugh, one dance, one act of joy can change everything. Even the sun listens, even gods return. And when they do, the world blooms in their wake. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell so you never miss a new tale. There's always more to explore here on Raconteur, where legends live again.